Hi friends, Shane here with Main Street Lawn Care. Today I wanted to show you a little trick that just might get you back up and running with a mower that doesn't seem to want to keep running. It's not something that I would do to a mower that I was working on for somebody else, but if you're in a quick pinch and you think that you're losing compression, this just might be a trick to get you back on the road long enough to get through a job. I've got an old mower here that I picked up from a junkyard earlier today. I went by and looked through, found one that I thought had the problem that this would help. We're going to try it out and see if it helps. So I have my suspicions that there's a valve stuck open on this mower. At the junkyard, I tried it. It was really easy to pull, like it has no compression. I'm pretty sure that one of the valves is stuck in an open position. First thing to do is going to be to take out the spark plug and get a quick compression test, see where we're at. Compression testers are relatively cheap. Let's screw in the hole where the spark plug come out. On this particular mower, I would expect to see anywhere from 80 to 130 psi on the gauge. When testing compression on a small engine, I like to give it at least 5 good pulls on the recoil. That should be enough to give you an accurate reading. If the needle keeps rising, just keep pulling until it stops. No compression at all. That's a sign that either a valve is in fact stuck open or we've got much bigger problems. Now let's go ahead and take off the valve cover. It's held in place by 4 10mm bolts. These bolts should not be very tight and should come off very easily. At this point, I should have went ahead and removed the recoil starter. It's held in place with 3 8mm bolts and would have saved me a lot of time. I struggled with the rope here for a little before deciding I can't pull it from this angle. I want to compress the springs. The springs close the valves and the push rods open them. A couple of different things can cause this on these small engines. If a mower isn't ran for a while, it can get rusted at a partially open position, or carbon can build up on the valve seats, not allowing it to close properly. It's best to do this with no tension on the push rods. The lower rod's got tension on it at the moment. I'm trying to turn the engine slowly to get tension off of both rods, but I can't see from back there. That's why it would have been good to remove the recoil starter earlier. It seems to be working. After moving the valves a little by hand, we have a reading of about 30 psi. It's about to pay off. If you watch the valve on the bottom, you can see it finally snap all the way out, seating the valve. .42 psi on the gauge. See how easy it is to get the valves where I want them with it out of the way. Here we are coming to the part I mentioned I wouldn't do to a customer's mower. We want to make sure both valves are closed and the piston is as close as possible to the bottom of its stroke. You can check to make sure it's bottomed out with a zip tie. Then I'm going to flood the cylinder with engine degreaser, about a 5-second spray right through the hole where the spark plug was. This isn't going to hurt your engine, but if it were for a customer, I would want to take it apart for a visual inspection of the cylinder, piston, and valves. Now we need to put the spark plug back in and let it sit for about 15 minutes or so. It's been about 15 minutes. Now I'm going to take the spark plug back out. Then I will take a drill and a 23mm socket to spin the engine. I suggest you hold a paper towel in front of the spark plug hole to keep the degreaser from getting everywhere. Now I'll go ahead and reinstall the spark plug and attach the coil wire. We can also put the valve cover back on at this point. It isn't starting. Let's take off the breather cover, remove the air filter, and give it a small shot of carburetor cleaner. If it starts and runs, we are mission success. If it starts and dies, we're not getting any fuel and we'll have to tackle the carburetor next. If it doesn't start at all, we still do not have enough compression and have wasted our time up till this point. Well, it started, and then it died. We're not getting any fuel through the carburetor. We'll have to take off the breather housing, remove the two 10mm nuts from either side of the carburetor, and unhook the governor linkage and spring. I see a bent linkage on this mower. They come from the factory with the thermo switch attached to the choke. It's not uncommon for people to unhook these and simply bind the choke in the full unchoked position. Before I take a carburetor apart, I like to lay down a paper towel. These small 4-stroke carburetors are as simple as it gets. They're held together with a single 12mm bolt, but there are a few small components inside there. There will be a float held in place with a small rod. There will also be a small needle valve attached to the float. Its job is to stop the flow of gas when the bowl of the carburetor is full. We will start by taking our carbon choke cleaner and putting in the red straw. Then we will stick the straw in the hole where the fuel line was attached. It should blow out where the needle valve was. Then we will stick the straw where the needle valve was and blow back through it. This one was stopped up. You can see the first couple of attempts barely any came out, but on the third time the blockage gives way. Next we will shoot some cleaner up the hole in the middle. It should come out of a small hole on the side that was against the engine, as well as straight up through the center of the carburetor. Lastly, the bolt that held the carburetor together has a hole in the center. Spray cleaner in there and it should shoot out of one or two holes on the side of the bolt. Now we will put it all back together. Luckily the bowl gasket on this one is still okay. Start by putting the needle valve back on the float and lower it into its seat. Then put the small metal rod back through the float. I forgot to clean the bolt on this one, so I have to do it now. Then make sure your gasket is on the bolt. Put it through the bowl and bolt it all back together. I usually only tighten it as much as I can by hand, holding the deep well socket. Now it's time to put the carburetor back on. Be sure to put in the governor linkage and spring first. You cannot get them hooked up after the bolts are in the carburetor. On most mowers there will be a second linkage attached to the choke. But like I said earlier, someone removed the thermo switch on this one, so I will just twist it to bind the choke into the unchoked position. Now that that's done, hook the fuel line back up, put on the gas cap, and we'll be ready to see if all this is paid off. Success. I pushed it outside and let it run about 5 minutes. Now that we have ran it a little, I'm curious to see what our compression is now. We had 42 psi after our last test. Spoiler alert, it had 72 pounds of compression. I'm sure it will get even better after it's run a little. I will update after running it this week. I have a few dog kennel play yards that I mow, and I thought this might be a good mower for that. Pups leave out toys and dig up rocks. I'd rather not hit them with my other more expensive mowers. If you like this video, leave me a like and hit the bell to get notified of my new videos. I would love to hear your comments. As always, thanks for watching.